Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Dixon, and today we've got Mark Stern on the podcast. He is the founder and CEO of Custom Box Agency, which is an award-winning experiential marketing firm based here in Austin. We kind of dig into a very interesting kind of origin story to becoming a founder. Effectively, he was driving down the road. Most people in America are driving down trying to get to that white picket fence after college, get a good job, invest in your 401k and hope you've got enough money to retire, until he had a dream where essentially in his dream, he was told that if he didn't kind of quit his 9-to-5 W-2 job, he was going to die. And so a few days later, he went into his boss's office and did just that. He quit without having a real true plan of what he was going to do next. And through a few iterations and a few other startups, he landed on Custom Box Agency. So very interesting episode. We dig in deep into what Custom Box Agency is, how it is kind of a more analog play when it comes to customer acquisition and customer retention versus just a digital tool. So very interesting episode. I think you'll get a lot out of it. So let's get Mark on the pod. Interested in hearing conversations with private equity leaders, CEOs of private equity-backed companies, and startup entrepreneurs where they share their stories about their career journeys, starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, and the important role that having the right talent plays in building a successful business, then you are in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. Here's your host, Justin Dixon. All right, Mark, thank you for being a guest on the podcast. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Justin. Thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in. Maybe give everybody a little bit of an overview of who you are, where you are, and what you're up to right now.
Sure. I'm Mark Stern. I live in Austin, Texas. My business is Custom Box Agency. My journey, when I grew up, I was told that there was just one natural progression to life, and that was you graduate high school, go to college, graduate college, get the dream job, go to grad school, get the dream job in the home with the white picket fence and family with kids. And for me, I followed it to a T. It led me all the way to getting my MBA at Duke in 2012. But I graduated with $165,000 worth of student loan debt, never in a million years. Thought it was a smart decision to become an entrepreneur because of all the debt that I accrued. And I also signed a 2-year commitment to a big consulting firm called Deloitte. And if you know that world, basically it's all consuming. But it took me years to finally find the courage to take the leap into starting a business. And that was 2018 at the very beginning. Over Christmas, had a dream that told me if I didn't leave my corporate job, one that I was really happy in, on the verge of becoming a partner, that the job would kill me. And so that kind of led me down this pathway of taking a massive leap into the unknown, scratching this itch to become an entrepreneur. And where the business I have today really came to life, Custom Box Agency, was out of necessity during COVID. I was buying all these products and I just wished they sent me what I needed to be set up for success. And so we started doing that with products that we created. We would literally mail everything they needed out of the gates. And, that was early days of Custom Box Agency, just setting people up for success. But where we've evolved this business to date is how do we get into your genius and really optimize your customer journey? So how you serve and how the experience you provide to get them results or outcome. And we will build a whole physical product around you to gamify and simplify what it is you do so your customers can get results faster.
Interesting. There's definitely a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But a clarification question, I guess, because
Sure.
I was looking at your website and Custom Box Agency. My mind immediately goes to all of the subscription boxes that you can buy, whether it's tea or clothes or anything like that. This is not that, right? This is more specific to a company and what they're trying to. So maybe give an example so that, I can get better educated, and maybe if somebody else is thinking the same thing, share a little bit more about kind of how that works.
Sure. So we always say that there's 3 journeys that your customer faces: your customer, your client, your patient. It doesn't matter, whoever you serve. And you can even fit your employees into this category. But the 3 journeys, we just say it's the customer life cycle. You acquire your customers, then you onboard and deliver in some capacity, and then you want to retain them. Acquisition, delivery, and retention are 3 different campaigns where we can get into your business and say, how are you doing this? And walk me through the process. And let me also show you other avenues you can consider, whether it's an acquisition play or better equipping your people out of the gates, or thinking about the next journey or the next product or service you should sell them. So across the domain, that's kind of where we anchor conversation with clients. And then from there, if you have a product, what we're going to be looking at is how are you onboarding and setting up your people for success for the journey that they're about to go on for the product or service that they just bought from you. So what we will do with the box experience, and we love gamification, is can I create a 1-page roadmap or journey showing you all the core phases or all the core stops to getting that outcome? And knowing that, I can then go and build a physical product that literally gives you the tools every step along the way. And where we play that makes us really different is whereas a subscription box maybe I found a sponsor or a partner that's choosing to put an assortment of items in a subscription box. We're very different because we will build whatever it takes for your customer, client, or patient. If it would be helpful for them to have a workbook, we're going to design the workbook or the journal or whatever the piece is, all the action cards and the steps of it. So imagine that we just turned your business into a game. And I'm not saying a literal game, but I'm using gamification because it's just a powerful means to, 1, show people a new way to serve, and 2, incentivize their behavior as they hit all the core milestones you want them to hit to getting the outcome as to why they bought your products in the first place. So just imagine when I say we can turn it into a game, we literally can turn your business into a game and incentivize behavior or engineer feedback loops to get more feedback from your customers. And how we do it is by taking what it is that you do and turning it literally into a physical product.
Got it. Interesting. So I think about, because obviously I've got a recruiting business. So I think about, this is a kind of an easy example for me is like, I get a client, their goal is to hire somebody. So you could literally create a game to kind of highlight each step of the hiring, interviewing, screening process, to show them kind of how to move from start to finish, quote unquote. Is that a very simplified version of kind of what you create?
Great. And we can actually dig deeper into that if you want to, just because it so correlates to a product that we
if you want to do a little case study real quick, I'd love to because I think it will help me and also maybe help people think about it. Because I work a lot with startups, with SaaS companies, and everybody is going online, AI, digital, where you're kind of going against the grain, so to speak, and creating something that's physical, a workbook, a journal, cards, whatever that is, again, not where everybody's going. Everybody's going online. You're going more analog, which I think is
analog's the right word. It's so funny. It's totally the right word. And for those who are listening, like the one thing I will say is the most complicated part of the business is just getting your head wrapped around what the product is, because we truly are kind of pioneering this concept. It was the one thing I was told not to do when you become an entrepreneur, which is to innovate. You should emulate. But what's been so much fun is, and if you could see me, all these tiles behind me, and they just go on forever. These all represent different products we release to the marketplace. And there's so much strategy that's baked into it. So we launched a product in terms of like the customer journey and the categories of acquisition, delivery, and retention. This is an acquisition play. I'm holding up a box called 57 Hats, where this concept really came from. On the back end was can we create a product that can be a great feeder, 1, to bring awareness, and 2, to position us as an authority for one of our businesses that is around recruiting and placement. And anyone can take this product and apply it to their business as well. But what the concept was as my business started to grow, what I noticed is, when you have a small team, people on your team typically wear multiple hats in your business. And as the business grows, what I started doing is taking hats off of employees. And what I did not expect to happen is my employees started to mourn, like, why are you taking responsibility away from me? And I told them it's because this is not why I hired you. I see your zone of genius. And what's been beautiful was watching them truly get rid of the things that were holding them back, the hats that they didn't need anymore because we could hire people for it, and truly watch them step into their zone of genius. So what this product is designed to do is, part of the question became, do I even have a vernacular on all the roles I as a CEO or my executive team or members of my team are wearing? And so what this is designed to do is this is actually literally a game, whereas other things we do are gamification. tactics towards the business. But, I wanted to have something that had kind of the instructions. So you always own instructions, something that provided a list of all the hats. But essentially all we did with this product was I wanted a game board, think of a Monopoly board material that had some of our business concepts around helping entrepreneurs understand what are the hats you're wearing and should you be wearing this hat, and giving them an evaluation criteria to understand that. And just playing off of the phonetic or the cliche element of hats. My business partner, he really anchors on, in one of his methodologies, there's only 5 key departments in any organization: operations, marketing, delivery, sales, and finance. And just playing off of that, we built using cards, because cards were the perfect modality for this product. What would the hat look like for the different roles within an organization? A founder's hat, a project manager hat, an operations hat. And we just played off this concept across. And you can see green is for finance, blue is for marketing roles, red is for sales, and yellow is for delivery. But we literally, I'll give you an exercise and a means to sit down and say, these are some of the most common roles in an organization. If we don't have your role, we have blank cards these are all dry erase you can write on, and go through the exercise itself. But for each of the roles, not only do we kind of provide a brief description, we provide key objectives of the roles. And when you scan the QR code in the online platform, we give you, here's the roles and responsibilities for this role. Here's KPIs you should consider. Here's a job description you can swipe. Here is interview questions. Here's sample tests. Here's Myers-Briggs, Strength Finders, and other personality tests. But we want to give you a wealth of information, because what we found is people don't realize how many hats they're wearing, or they didn't realize that certain things they were doing, there's actually a role for it. So if all I can do in this one little product is say, take 15 minutes and really get a sense of the hats you're wearing and whether or not you should be wearing them, or you should be delegating it or deleting it altogether because it doesn't have any relevance in your business anymore, then it opens up this question of, okay, what's the next step? I'm overwhelmed doing this, hiring, staffing myself. Is this something that you can help with? And so this is just literally leveraging a physical product as a means. And again, this is an acquisition play, because the whole idea is, can I nurture you and position myself as an authority figure? And I'm doing that through the crux of something that feels like a new opportunity. And the other thing I'll say is our cost of the product is similar to the cost of a book. So now the new opportunity becomes interesting, because would you rather read a book, or would you rather spend 15 minutes interacting with a product to get a result?
Yeah. So before we jump more into Custom Bucks Agency and 57 Hats, I guess, you had this very interesting upbringing, and I was actually just on a podcast as a guest earlier today, and I grew up in the same kind of, I was provided the same guidance as you were, was get a good job, get a good education, invest in your 401k, and, retire at 65 and hope you've got enough money to retire. Yeah. And then along the way, I read a book, you had a dream. So different kind of light bulb moments.
Oh, I got to know what book this is.
Well, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the book that I read that kind of just flipped the script of where I should focus first it shows you that there's a different path to get to the same goal, retirement, whatever that looks like. But it can look different than just going to a 9 to 5 every day. And so I guess, at what point did you had this dream, you had a ton of debt. Was Custom Box Agency the first thing you thought of, or how did you go in this route versus, you went to Duke, you were working at Deloitte, you probably were exposed to a lot of innovation and technology and all the stuff. Why not start a SaaS business or something different than a physical product company?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I made the transition, I had no idea what it was that I would do. If you work for Deloitte, literally a cab picks you up at 4:45 every Monday, takes you to the airport, you're back home Thursday night or Friday morning just to wash your clothes, put them back in your suitcase, and be picked up the following Monday. So that was my life. And when you look at that, a lot of people ask me, did you have a plan? Did you know what it was? I didn't have the mental capacity to have a plan. And so I had to hold the belief that when I released Deloitte, it would free up the space for me to get creative again. Where Custom Box Agency happened was, it was never meant to be the business. I started because someone told me that I should do a virtual event or a virtual summit. It's a great way to get leads. It's a great way to build a product, get your name out there. And I love going to conferences. And so this seemed like a no-brainer and something really fun. I didn't realize that I did a virtual summit, and they were like, you need 40 speakers. So I had 43 speakers, and it was quite the production. But what was so overwhelming about it is the way that the virtual summit model works in the online space is it's designed to be a lead gen play, meaning,
Yeah.
hey, give me your email and I'll give you access to 8 speakers on Monday. You have 24 hours to watch them. And oh, by the way, if you can't watch them, you'll lose access unless you buy a ticket to the event. And I hated that model because I was like, I'm literally dumping 40 hours worth of content on someone and telling them if they can't watch it when it's live, they have to give me money. And then I'm going to make a pitch for a higher ticket product or service on the back end of it, which if they can't get through the 40 hours of 40 different views, how am I going to convince them to buy this higher ticket product or service? So the whole model in my, like, as I was going through it, just seemed so overwhelming and truly didn't seem like it was designed to help the person that was watching and listening to it, hoping that someone may have the solution to their problems. And so we created a physical product. It was just a publication called Entrepreneur Elements that if you bought a ticket, we mailed you the publication. And what I didn't expect was when people received this physical thing, it was a representation of what was happening digitally, but they all started doing reveal videos, taking pictures of the publication. Speakers were showing off their spreads because we broke down the best insights. And so I was getting all this organic traffic because I tied a physical product to something digital. And so that's how, like in this age of AI, where we're doubling and tripling down is that the more extreme digital we go with AI, you're seeing this rise of digital distrust. Physical mixed with digital provides this new opportunity that can take that digital experience to the next level. And we tested it again and again, and it just became this no-brainer that when we switched from publications to boxes, and it was never meant to be the business, people started doing these unboxing videos that were averaging 3 to 7 minutes. And then people were saying, where do I get this product? So they were selling the product for me, which you can't do an unboxing to a digital only product. And so that's kind of where all this started. I launched a challenge teaching people how to do this to buy back my time. And then the opposite happened. People went through the challenge to learn how to create these physical experiences. And then they wanted to hire me to do it. So it was like, are you listening to what people are asking for? Because the business I was building at the time and I'd spent 3 years on, it was doing fine, but people weren't in demand as what we were creating. When COVID happened, it was this beautiful segue that showed the power of physical when we're all so isolated. That just the decision to go all in on that has allowed us just to refine our, like when we think of physical and strategy and achieving your business objectives and business strategy with how we're leveraging a physical product to take it to the next level.
Yeah, I'm curious about the whole COVID aspect. Like, was that a catalyst, do you think, for you, or were you growing well enough that you couldn't, I guess, attribute COVID to the growth of the business, or do you think it was kind of a boon for you where it was, bust for a lot of other organizations?
COVID was great for us. We liked COVID. I mean, I didn't like being trapped at home.
Right.
My body did not like COVID.
Purely business perspective, it was good.
It was great in the sense of the business that I had been building for the last 3 years after Deloitte was one in the virtual event space. Okay. And you would think during COVID, having a virtual event business, you're well positioned. And then I started building this custom box business because people were asking me for it, but it was always about the virtual event business. And it was my mentor at the beginning of COVID. He looked at me and said, I went around and asked, who is Mark Stern? And half the people say, oh, he's the virtual event guy. The other half said he's the custom box guy. So in terms of just advice as a new entrepreneur, it was brilliant because I was confusing people on like making it easy for them to talk about me or refer me out to other people. So I killed the virtual event business, went all in on the box business, and it was a pivot that when everyone became a virtual event expert during COVID, every local market event planner or wedding planner is now a virtual event expert. It was the difference between being a competitor or being a collaborator and partner. And so that one little pivot all of a sudden made me not compete against virtual event people. It made me become such a great partner that can bring this capability that they didn't have in-house. So that's kind of where it all started, and it just continued to evolve from there.
Fascinating. I want to go back to your dream because I'm always curious about origin stories and the pivot or the jump from W-2 to entrepreneur. Some people like myself, I was very risk averse, so it took me about a year and a half of planning and saving and condensing our lifestyle and all these other financial and mindset exercises to get myself geared up to quit my job. And I quit my job in January of 2020, which was not a good time to start a recruiting business right before COVID. So COVID was a boon for you. It was not great for me from a business perspective. But I'm curious about, okay, you had this dream, and in the dream, somebody said to you, if you stay at Deloitte or stay working in W-2, you're going to die, right? Or
Yeah.
it's going to kill you, and well in advance of when maybe you should. Wake up. What do you do? How long from that dream until you quit? Did you set anything up? It sounds like you kind of cut the cord and then thought that life would find a way, kind of thing. Maybe share about that kind of wake up from the dream. What happens?
Yeah, no, I'm like a pure loyalist as you can get when I get involved in something. And so if you look at my career trajectory from undergrad to business school, I had one job and I loved it and I went all in on it. I was doing national marketing campaigns for major beverage brands.
Okay.
And like it was like eating candy going to work every day. I loved it so much. And then after business school, I started at Deloitte all the way up till 6 years later, becoming an entrepreneur. And as crazy as Deloitte is, I loved it. I loved the people. I loved the clients. I loved the work that I was doing. To answer your question, the last couple of years, you do feel those golden shackles. And every time my head said it's time to leave Deloitte, which happened at year 2 and year 4, there was something that was pulling me back saying not yet, because there was like an experience I still needed to have. So I'm glad I listened to my gut. And then when it hit year 6, that desire wasn't there. But what was happening the last year and a half is every time I got on a plane, I could feel my body breaking down. When the event happened, it was December 27th, 2017. I went to bed. It was more like a premonition than a dream. But it was this eerie feeling that I just woke up with tears in my eyes. And because like that is the only time as a consultant that your brain slows down is between Christmas and New Year's, because everyone takes time off. And if you don't, you're going to lose all these days you accrue because you never take time off in that world. And I had to be in Dallas January 3rd. So we're talking like a week later. And drove to Dallas, met up with the partner I reported to, and put my notice in and told him, I got to go. I didn't want to see my title change, but this is not a 2 weeks notice. I'm happy to stay until we finish out this line of work. So I stayed at Deloitte through May of that year because I wanted to make sure that they had a smooth transition. You become an expert in what you do in that world. Especially as you start to grow, and just to say, here's 2 weeks and I'm out, it's just hard to do. And what Deloitte does so beautifully is they have this term called boomerangs, that if you go out to the world and see it and are like, this wasn't what I thought it would be, but, I actually was really happy at Deloitte. They welcome you back if you're a good performer. And so it was really important for me to leave on good terms. And so I have so many beautiful relationships at Deloitte. But that was kind of like the journey itself, why it took, you put it in December 3rd or January 3rd. And I was there till first or second week of May. It was just because, like, in my mind, though, that was kind of where, like, knowing that I was going to be leaving started to free up that space to make space for what the next thing would be.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up kind of the boomerang thing. I think a lot of the big 4 and some of the even bigger organizations, they almost create ecosystems of alumni, right? People that work there, and to your point, they welcome them back if they left on good terms. And a lot of people think of boomerangs as negatives, where you go back to the company where I think that Deloitte and I know PwC has that same type of scenario where you can come back if you're a good employee. I think that mindset is pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So you left in May officially. How long did it take you to kind of let your brain decompress, go lay on the beach or something, and to the point where you were ready to, or kind of got the creative spark to create a business? And obviously, we know kind of how that rest of that journey kit. But I'm curious about that kind of evolution to kind of being free enough to let your brain cool down.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I had to get through was I was beating myself up because I didn't think I was doing enough fast enough, because that was the world I came from. When you work at Deloitte, you are always drinking from the fire hose. Everything's on fire. Nothing's not on fire. And so you're used to working 24/7 nonstop. You're used to thinking maybe if I put in more work hours over the weekend, it may free up a couple hours to work out before going to the client site. And so like that was my mindset in the part that had to change, which the first month, I literally had to give myself permission to slow down to learn how to play a new game. And that was like my aha, which was um, I realized pretty quickly that people say when they leave corporate and start a business, it's like pushing the reset button. And I don't agree with that at all.
Mm.
I've heard that from a lot of people. I'm like, you never push the reset button because your competitive edge is the pathway that got you to where you are today. So the realization I had was this: it was that corporate versus entrepreneurship is like checkers versus chess. The game board looks the same, the rules are completely different. And
Yep.
so I started realizing I'm playing checkers with chess rules, and if you do that, you are going to fail. So I had to take a step back to say, like in my mind, I'm like, I'm a high performer in corporate, so I'm going to be a high performer as an entrepreneur, and it's just not the case. But the second I realized I had to learn to play a new game, and I took a step back and was like, what is this game? What are the rules? What's the makeup? Because the game board looks the same. Checkers and chess, literally the same game board. That's when things started to shift because it gave me permission to learn. And then what was my competitive edge? It was the experiences that I could bring to the table, which is everyone's competitive edge. Is what makes you different is the life experiences and the professional experiences that you've had to get you to where you are. So that was a big factor that then made me say, okay, who can teach me how to play this game? And I delved deep into Russell Brunson's realm. I joined Two Comma Club coaching. I joined other coaching programs because that was going to fast track my understanding, my learning. And so kind of that mentorship, this is not a game I would ever recommend playing alone. What was beautiful about like being part of different masterminds and groups is you can learn, it's like you're learning from the group and you have this resource you can tap into. And so I never felt alone in this journey because I always felt that there was those around me. And so that was like the community that I joined. That was the first year they launched. I think it was Two Comma Club coaching. But I've been part of other masterminds and groups, which is why you got to get hyper clear on what is it that you want out of a mastermind before even joining. Otherwise, you'll spend a lot of money for ones that you have no business being in.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things that I wish I would have done earlier is found a mastermind that was more aligned with what I wanted, as opposed to one that I thought was broad enough that it would be a catch-all, right?
Yeah.
But the mastermind world can be super helpful, especially as an entrepreneur, because it is a very lonely journey being a startup founder. Even if you have partners or employees, it can be a very lonely journey, and having other people that are going through or have gone through similar situations to you is super helpful because they can point out red and yellow flags that you may not even see.
100%.
And then you can avoid those potholes or whatever you want to say, and hopefully grow quicker. And then you have that knowledge and you can pass on to the next person, right? So it's this kind of pay it forward type of role. And I've been a part of a few, and I've never found really anybody that's in those groups that is like, they're not willing to share trade secrets, so to speak, right? Because it's like, hey, we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to grow a business, help our customers, feed our families, et cetera, et cetera. And so I've found that most people who join those groups join it for themselves, but also to help other people. Has that been your experience?
For me, I like the one thing that you kind of hit on is you got to be clear on what it is that you're looking for out of the group, because I think that that's so important, and it's so easy to see it. Like if someone can sell you something, they're going to sell you something. And so you got to level set and get grounded on like, what is it that you actually need? But like for me, I feel like people have been pretty transparent about sharing, kind of their secrets and their experience. And I feel like I've been lucky enough that the groups I'm part of, like even with my business, I'd give you the blueprint to everything that we do, from how we strategize all the way down to activating and managing a warehouse. But what I know is the complexity in terms of what I do and how I do it.
Yeah.
And I know that you're not going to do it the way that I do it. And so this is kind of where like I'm all for people growing my category, because you're going to bring more competition into the game, or more awareness into this unique opportunity. And so I don't know, my experience with masterminds is you can outgrow them. You can, and so that's one of the things, is that there's masterminds that was, and same thing with coaches and mentors, you can outgrow them. And it's so easy to get in the like stuck in the oh my God, this was such a good program, and you're now in year 3 or 4, and it's no longer about like the true need as to what you have and you've evolved. But yeah, no, I've been fortunate to have really, really good experiences overall with it, with people. And then I find if people don't share in those settings, and I'm not saying you should give away your playbook,
Yeah.
I find that people know it. The other thing that you have to watch for is I've been in communities that people like to showboat and they like to talk a bigger game than they actually have experienced. And the way that a 6-figure entrepreneur thinks is different than a 7-figure is different than an 8-figure, because they're at different parts of the business. And so if a 6-figure entrepreneur is advising an 8-figure, listen, but also be cautious of understanding, where people are and how they're giving advice, because it's not all created equal in that environment.
So going back to the business, where are you now? So you've been in business for what, 5-6 years? Is that right?
Gosh, I guess that's right. Almost 5 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So where's the business now? Like how many employees you have? Like what's the makeup of the business at this point?
Yeah. So we have, our core team is about 25 people.
Okay.
When we work with clients, we guide you through like when we envision like building a product in your business. What I don't want is clients coming to us with the solution, because chances are they don't know what they don't know. And that's what's fun about like building expertise. And this is true for anyone listening in your own business. When you build expertise, continue to build that expertise, because it makes you so much more competitive in the marketplace, because you get to put all your brain power to solving this problem, whereas other people aren't going to put the same mental capacity that you have already put into solving the problem. So I get to live, breathe, and think customer journey, physical products. So the makeup of the business is it's heavy on strategy first. We will get into your business. We'll go through your product. We'll read your book. We'll go through your software as a service platform, just to understand how it is that you are delivering, because that helps us advise and guide you better. And clients come and usually spend a day with us in our office here in Austin, Texas. And we will literally, like when they show up, I want them to feel like we're an extension of their team, and we've already gone through their product. So you can have a lot more high level strategic conversation to plot out what is the product we're going to build. Then we'll do all the design. So we have a big design team. We can do all the sourcing to start to bring it to life, all the manufacturing. And then we have our warehouse in Austin, Texas, near the airport. So we can not only produce the product, but we help you envision, but we can also help put the automation in place to get it into your customer's hands. So that end to end is kind of where we love to serve and support, because I don't ever want to put you in a position that we dream something big and then I just hand you the strategy and go do this yourself, because that would be too overwhelming. There's too many. Yeah, that's what you're right. That is exactly what we did for consulting, was spend 8 weeks chugging away to build some comprehensive strategy. And then we're like, here.
And then nothing. And then 6 months later, you get hired back to then redefine the strategy because they didn't do anything.
Oh yeah. Or you've built this beautiful 100-page deck that is now on their bookshelf, taking up space.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I'm curious if you can share, and you don't need to share any company information or client information, but like what's some really interesting or creative things you've created for customers that, maybe you didn't think about going into this business that you would ever create?
What's so much? Okay. So I'm going to talk about 2 things that have inspired me. And if like part of it is if you can start to get my lens on how we start to think about business, it truly, like, you realize that anything is possible. And it's so much fun to go out in public and see something that was used for a different application and then reimagine it for something that is part of the customer journey. So we're talking like lottery, scratch offs, pull tabs, all those things can be reimagined in terms of an experience. We've created journey maps that when you hit a milestone, you scratch off this square of the milestone. There's a QR code that takes you back to an online experience. So any of that can be easily engineered or done. We've had people that wanted a box that had hidden compartments or a false bottom. So it's like Easter eggs coming to life in it. But things that have really inspired me, I was born in the early 80s. I loved original Nintendo, specifically Mario Brothers 3 for an original Nintendo. And there's so many nuances to that game that from a journey perspective, like keep me playing and keep me going. And so how we've engineered from just like things that have inspired me from the 80s. I love Spartan races. I love a good mud run to get muddy. Are you familiar with the Spartan race?
Yeah. Yep.
And so awards is a big thing we do because in terms of the customer journey, acquisition, delivery, and recognition is part of the retention category. Hey, if you keep staying and like hitting these milestones, we had someone in the real estate space that they talked about generational freedom. The way they defined it was, do you have 10 properties, investment properties? Like I can incentivize and celebrate when you hit your second and your fifth and then your 10th. And so one of the things, let me see if I could see, I'm going to grab, let me see if yep, right here. One of the things that really inspired me was when I did my first Spartan race, I did not believe that I was an athlete. And it was just meant because I was doing a 5K a month because that's what I wanted to do. What Spartan did so brilliantly was they gave me the medal, which is what I wanted when I completed the race. And then they gave me a third of a medal and said, okay, now it's time to go after your trifecta. So I'm only showing you this as a use case because for me, I wanted this award because it's recognition. It was something to celebrate this accomplishment that I didn't think I can do. Spartan held a bigger vision for me, which I think is the role of the entrepreneur. We need to hold a bigger vision for our people than they hold for themselves. But this is actually a lifetime value play. It's a retention play because they're now saying, congrats, it's time to get the other 2 wedges. And so what did I do that year? I was not a runner in 2015 when I did my first Spartan race. It just wasn't my identity. It wasn't my story. I wasn't an athlete growing up because I had a lot of problems with my feet. So I would just trip over my feet. But like this wedge, when I got my second wedge, and the rule is you have to do 3 races in the same calendar year, a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon. Had you told me in 2015 I'd be doing a half marathon, I would have said you've lost your mind. However, they engineered an experience that I ultimately said, if I have to drag my body over the finish line, I will drag my body over the finish line to get that last wedge. So I kept paying them because for me, it wasn't about lifetime value. It was about like an identity shift that I went through. That is something that we have been able to take the same concept in many different ways and engineer something similar for clients. So taking the same thing this is what's fun about it. You just see something that's out there and reimagining it for a different scenario. The same thing with coin boards. If you ever remember that, US launched a new quarter for every state. My father years ago, we had this map of the US with like places that you can shove the quarters in. We've leveraged that same concept in a very different visual where I can get a coin board produced, but say, as you hit certain milestones with my agency, my firm, my organization, I'll give you a coin. And the idea is, again, collection is a really powerful strategy. How do I create a scenario that you want to collect all the pieces just like Spartan did? So this is kind of where it's just when you start to realize you can manufacture and create anything out there and just reimagine it for a different business use case, it's really powerful.
Yeah, no, Spartan was smart on that because I did a very early Tough Mudder back in the day, and I got the orange headband, which everybody recognized, and whenever I did any other runs, but yeah, they didn't have the extra kind of incentive. They probably do now. I'm guessing they do. I haven't done one in a long time, but that's fascinating. Even though your business is more analog than AI, are you leveraging, or how are you leveraging AI in your business when you're working with customers? Like, is there any kind of AI-ification of your business that you're utilizing?
I feel like if you don't have AI in some capacity in your business, you're going to lose this game really fast. And so we're constantly looking at ways on how can we help create onboarding materials, different customer journeys faster, because even with that, there still is a huge design element because design is so at the crux of everything that we do. It just brings the strategy to life really powerfully. So everything behind me, we design everything for our clients. And so in that sense, and then from a physical perspective, this is kind of why we love to double down in this age of AI, is that AI is not going to replace physical yet, especially if physical can be to some degree AI enabled. And so we're constantly looking for different ways. Now it's slightly different thinking about it because now I can create physical products that there's a digital solution where you can put a couple inputs and have a comprehensive plan built out for you. And so that's kind of what we're starting to look for in different products. But every business needs to be considering the implications of AI because the conversation we're having today is already vastly different than the conversation from January, is vastly different from a year and a half ago. And it's going to continue to get more mainstream. So in 57 Hats, I can easily create a product that says, you want us to write a job description. AI can easily do that for the roles and then customize it to you by just putting some basic inputs. That's a very light use of it. But still, AI's application in this game, I don't fear it. You got to embrace it. And so then the question becomes, we joke and say we may start putting on, like, whereas products say Intel inside for computers, something that is a physical product that also has some type of nomenclature that indicates, that it is AI enabled, which just opens up a whole nother realm when you start to blend physical with digital.
Yeah. And how does 57 Hats fit into the custom box agency? Are they separate businesses, or are they kind of, you mentioned kind of one feeds or one's a feeder? Like, how does that work?
So much of where this started was so Custom Box Agency, that is where we incubate and create the physical products.
Okay.
And now as this business has grown, we're probably going to spin off our fulfillment center and spin off our creative agency and just let it be just focused on the build out of a product. And I'm only saying that because as you start to grow, one of the things that I love about Custom Box Agency is I build a business that creates products. If you create a product, then the product can be its own independent thing and spin off, which in the same vein, a product can be sold. So we could grow 57 Hats to a certain place and sell it off as its own business. And so that's kind of what I love about Custom Box Agency is we can just incubate an idea, develop it, and put it out there. A lot of where this started was my mentor asked me, you build these boxes for everyone else. When are you going to start building boxes for yourself? And so we built another product that was all about laying out your customer acquisition strategy before 57 Hats. But now I'm in this whirlwind of like, there's no shortage of things that we can do. So 57 Hats fits under another business of mine called Hat Trick Studios. It's a partnership with two of my friends, James Friel and Yada Golden. And so that's where this lives, is that Custom Box Agency is contracted with Hat Trick Studios. But they're both businesses that are in my universe. And what's great about that is James and Yada bring to the table the piece that we don't directly. So now we have the capability to bring to clients, which is not only can we build the products, but we can also own the go-to-market strategy, the copywriting, the email strategy, the funnel strategy, the meta ad strategy, the SEO strategy, because they are so focused on digital, whereas we're so focused on physical. So it's been a cool thing to bring the two worlds together.
Yeah. There's probably 57 more questions that I could ask around the businesses and your journeys and all that stuff, but I want to be respectful of your time. I guess, if we jumped on a podcast a year from now, we're recording this at the end of July 2025, what's like one or two things that you would like to see happen with the business? It could be 57 Hats or Custom Box Agency that, coming on that podcast you'd be excited to share.
Yeah, I just went through my midlife crisis, so I could still be going through my midlife crisis. When I was 39, I'm now 41. I just turned 41 a week ago.
Happy birthday.
But thank you. But I read an article that said the average human in the US lives to 78. So it was the first time when you're at 39, you're literally at that midpoint. Based on this, I'm going to reject that I have till 78 to live, and then I'm going to live a lot longer than that. But at this point in time, when I read that, it put me in the spiral of what have you achieved and like, who do you want to become? And this fear that, like, at the time I was about 60 pounds heavier than I am right now. And that wasn't my highest. I'm down 80 pounds from my highest during COVID. I just put on so much weight during COVID because I couldn't figure out the gym routine. But I think there's this dialogue that's happening with men my age around mental health. It's the most common age and demographic for suicides, and I've seen that in friends as well.
Wow.
And to answer your question, there's a product that I am excited to start to bring to market that I'm calling 39 in life, which is what I felt when I was 39, was that my back was against the wall between 39 and life. And starting to think about how do you reclaim your power. So it's not for men, but anyone who's going through some degree of a life crisis and, trying to reimagine or I hate to say change, because I feel like we don't change. I feel like we evolve into who we always were meant to be. But I have a clear vision for this product that I believe could serve so many people that faced a similar challenge or setback that I faced that led me into my life crisis, and helping them navigate it in a really powerful way. And so that, to me, is a year from now, I'd love to see that product has, gone through manufacturing and is something that's ready to bring to market, because I truly see it as a legacy play.
I love that, because you and I are the same age. So,
Great.
I did not know that 39 was midway and we're on the downhill slide, but I agree with your sentiment that I reject 78, and I think it's,
Totally.
we've got a lot longer to go. That's a very interesting product. I would love to learn more about it as you're going through it, because it's, it's an interesting concept, because a lot of, I guess, men of a certain age, it's harder to make friends and, grow things, especially when you're moving around and everybody's on digital. It's a weird thing.
Yeah. It's and I never thought about mental health, but then it was like one of those that you start to see it in the amount of men that have come up to me, because I've been posting my transformation journey pretty actively online, saying I just want to feel safe. And I've heard that. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like there's a whole conversation that's just not being had. And part of it could be men just don't do a good job talking about it in the same capacity that women do.
Probably a fair statement.
Yeah.
Not to end this on a somber note.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the three pack of questions that I end every episode with. So, first question here: what's maybe a book or a podcast that you found helpful or inspirational that you would recommend?
My book of the year that I wish I'd read earlier. Well, there's two, but the first one is Who Not How by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. If you've read any of the Dan Sullivans, I liked it more than 10X is easier than 2X. But what I loved about it is it was a good reminder that I have the tendency to be like, I need to do this, so I need to figure it out. Yep. When it's actually much more time and cost effective to think about not me doing it, but who's my who that will accelerate this outcome and do something better. So that would be what I would do. And the other one is just like such a good classic, which is The Alchemist. I can't believe I didn't read that book until this year, and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah, I'm a big Who Not How fan. I've read most of Dan's stuff. I find that book, to your point, most people think if they want to grow a business or earn more money, it's like, how can I do something? Where that book is very much think about how you can leverage other people, other tools, and bring in your who. So I totally like that book a lot. So awesome. Next question here: what is your favorite thing to do outside of work? Other than Spartan races, I guess.
You knew I was going to say that. Yeah, I think it was because Spartan helped awaken a part of me that I did not know existed, and it killed so many beliefs. I remember the first time I did the trifecta, I broke down in tears. And 2 weeks ago, I did my 21st Spartan race, my 7th Spartan Beast. So it's crazy to think that I've done that many races, but each of them is an adventure. But it also reminds me, when you're on the course, that we are capable of so much more than we ever imagined. Yeah. And so I think that's why Spartan has been near and dear to my heart.
Yep. No, I love it. Yeah. You're never really sure how far you can go until you keep pushing it. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Last thing here, favorite vacation spot.
Okay, you're gonna laugh at me, but lately I have really enjoyed cruising, and I'm the type of cruiser that does not get off the boat. So that probably tells you a lot about my personality, is that I'm like, when we stop at port, I'm like, get off. The boat is mine. And I stay on the boat because there's no one on the boat. And I can brainstorm and think and play and do everything. And it is just, I think that with like life being as crazy and chaotic as it is, I love the monotony of just floating in the calmness of the ocean. But I don't get off the boat. Like it's delightful.
I watched a recent Netflix docu series or documentary on the one boat that all the toilets backed up and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I've never been on a cruise. I don't do well on boats, so I don't know if I would do well on a cruise just from a seasickness perspective. But yeah, when I've seen a couple of those things, and I'm like, I just don't think I would want to risk it.
Well, no, definitely not. I don't want to be stranded on the boat and be quarantined in my room. Yeah. But I've been lucky. Like, I just did an Alaskan cruise, and it was beautiful. It was serene. It was spiritual. It was a bunch of things that I didn't expect it to be. And I don't know. It was like the perfect recharge that I didn't know I needed, type of thing.
I think that my wife's mom and stepdad went on a cruise to Alaska. I think that would be one that I would probably do is an Alaskan cruise, just to be able to see all the things that you can see from a boat versus, on land and all that stuff. So, Mark, this has been a lot of fun. Definitely could unpack a lot more things here, but maybe we will have you on in a year, and we'll see if 39 to Life is out there. But if people want to learn more about you, your business, how they can get in touch with you, what's the best way to connect with you?
Feel free to go to customboxagency.com and get a free consultation with our team. You're also welcome to hit me up on Facebook or LinkedIn. I think it's probably listed under Mark R. Stern. Russell is my middle name, just because there's a lot of Mark Sterns out there. Look for the guy with the mustache. I think all my pictures have mustache. Mustache Mark is new. I don't have as luscious of a beard as you have, but maybe one day. But that would be the best places to find me.
Awesome. We'll add all the stuff in the show notes so people can get in touch with you. Like I said, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate your time and appreciate you being on the podcast.
Yeah, appreciate you. So thank you so much, Justin.
I hope you found at least one actionable insight from this episode of the Growth Capital Podcast, your one-stop shop for insights from private equity leaders, CEOs, and startup entrepreneurs on starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, as well as the role having the right talent plays in growing a successful business. It would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and drop us a comment so we can expand the audience of this podcast. Thank you for all your support, and don't forget about upcoming episodes dropping every Tuesday.